One thing is absolutely true when it comes to Disney, and that is that they oftentimes can't catch a break. That is going on right now with the marketing campaign that has been going on for Captain America Brave New World, where Anthony Mackie made a bunch of comments that were not really taken well by the internet, which then snowballed. And they then tried to be protected by the mainstream media, which called them right-wing outrage, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And now with the first reviews for the film coming out, we're going to go through a little bit of that, but I want to talk about Disney's lose-lose situation when it comes to the concept of boycotts and all of that, because look, it is absolutely true that for a lot of people on the right, they boycott Disney because they do not believe that what they present to the public with their media shares their cultural and family values. But now it's absolutely true that all of the pandering that they did in the past to the left isn't working, because right now, just as Captain America Brave New World is coming out, they are being boycotted by those on the left as pro-Palestinian protesters took to the streets during the premiere to tell Disney that they are guilty of genocide. So we're going to watch this video from the premiere, then I'm going to go through a little bit of this about why it's related to the character of Sabra, whose origin story they have already changed due to these protests, and we will get into a couple of the reviews as well, because as the score got released on Rotten Tomatoes for the critics, it dropped down very low, and it's climbed back up ever so slightly, but it is still not high enough to consider it anywhere near the benchmark of prior Marvel films. Not even just prior Marvel films, prior Captain America films. So here's what this article says. It's from Variety. Pro-Palestinian protesters call for Captain America Brave New World boycott at the Los Angeles premiere. Several dozen pro-Palestine protesters gathered Tuesday outside of the Hollywood premiere of Captain America Brave New World and called for a boycott of the film over its inclusion of the Israeli superhero Ruth Bat Saraf, aka Sabra, played by actress Shira Haas. Protesters held up signs that read, "Sabra has got to go, Disney supports genocide, and boycott Captain America, and pray for Princess Jasmine." They chanted phrases such as "Free, free, free Palestine," and "Disney, Disney, you can't hide." So right off the bat, like I said before, Disney has to feel these days, as they have made these cultural shifts away from social justice messaging, which they have done. It's been talked about in relation to films like Inside Out 2, which they made a lot of changes to make it a more neutral film for all to enjoy. To much success, to their credit, becoming the highest grossing film of last year with like $1.4 or so billion. It might have even been more than that. But now, just as those boycotts worked, or at the very least, as the outrage from the right and the lack of interest in their films worked, now they've got those on the left boycotting them for other reasons, and they have to start feeling like they just can't win when it comes down to it. Let's watch this video really quick that shows the protesters.
Boycott Disney!
Finally!
Disney, you can't hide! We taught you a genocide! Sabra, what do you say? How many kids have you killed today? Every time Disney lies!
I can't get over the people who are just over here just completely ignoring it and stuff like this. But if you look at the demographics of the protesters, what I was saying earlier, we did talk about this on PCC. It's crazy how leftist causes have absolutely hijacked and redirected the maternal instincts of 20-something young women in America, as they have denigrated the idea of starting a family. They have redirected all of that maternal instinct into the desire to protect other people, oftentimes those that they believe that people understand don't really have anything to do with them, because the causes that they're championing aren't those of anyone even in their country. So it becomes this strange feeling when you're watching all of the young women who go off to college. They are told what to think, told what to feel, and then they come out angry and desirous of change without any means to really do so outside of these limp protests that don't really ever seem to do anything. And it just kind of makes me sad in a lot of ways, because however much they may believe in these causes, it is not going to work when it comes to a company like Disney, because what Disney wants will never be what they want, because what Disney wants is money. And oddly enough, a lot of the people, look, if you are, I can't know for sure, I don't know everyone, but if you are the type of person that cares enough about pro-Palestine and going against Israel, a lot of the times, if you're going out to these protests, I'm guessing that there's a strong connection to ideas like anti-capitalism, which they also have a problem with because a company like Disney is desirous to make money. They want to profit. And no matter what Disney tells you to the contrary, no matter how much they tell you they care about changing the world and changing the way people see other people through their storytelling, the bottom line for a company is almost always, when it's done properly, to make money. We could get into a whole discussion about the context of stakeholder capitalism and how things have changed. And we are going to talk about that tomorrow, because we are going to discuss the way that their DEI programs have changed and the shuttering of their Reimagine Tomorrow department, all of that stuff. We will get into it. But the fact of the matter is that the people at these protests are protesting over a comic book character that they likely didn't even know existed before the movie was announced. All they know is that somebody who did know about comics told them that the character of Sabra was a Mossad officer and a mutant, and therefore we cannot support that. And here we go again. So now Disney has to worry about more boycotts from more groups. So we'll go into a little bit of detail so you can get a context of how this works. It was from one of the producers on the film, Nate Moore. He says, and remember, the funny thing about this is they're protesting and they changed the character's backstory for the exact reason that they were trying to stop this from happening. So it's like it ended up becoming something for nothing. They made all these changes to the character, and there was no reason to do that because the people that are protesting you aren't going to stop. They do not believe that you're actually giving into their demands, even if you removed all of those aspects of the character. So it says, this is from Nate Morgan. She's a first-generation Israeli, but she works with the U.S. government. We tried to take the essence of a character, but reinterpret in a way that we find interesting. When we made the Black Widow movie, we realized there was an opportunity to connect that mythology to characters that we thought were interesting and maybe didn't want to translate from one-to-one from publishing. So in other words, they're taking the concept of the Red Room and the backstory of Yelena and Black Widow, and they're adding that to a character like Sabra, despite the fact that in a world of storytelling, you could tell endlessly interesting stories about a former Mossad operative who maybe defects to America and ends up working in the U.S. government. That would be really, really interesting. But instead, due to outside political pressure, you have to sanitize it and connect it to another story that you've already told, which should just make any creative roll their eyes. Like, look, you had all of these opportunities to tell an interesting story, but because conflict between Israel and Palestine is so controversial, you're going to shy away from that. And I'm sure that to a lot of storytellers, that's the depressing part as well. She's no longer a mutant. She's a part of the Red Room. You want to make the best version of a character. Be honest to the roots of the character without not necessarily doing what publishing did. We weren't about to put her in a feather boa and have her throw diamond earrings at people. Actually, that would be really cool to see her kill somebody with a diamond earring. That's actually awesome. Why the hell wouldn't you do that? I want to see that. You're wrong. It's all about the attitudes of the character, he says. So look, on top of all of the controversy when it comes to protests, they have to deal with the fact that right now, the film has a very, very, very mediocre score. It is sitting at 52% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was as low as 47%. And the problem with that is, guys, is all of the other Captain America movies, whether it's First Avenger, Winter Soldier, which is my personal favorite Marvel movie of all time, or Civil War, all of the Captain America movies starring Chris Evans, all of those had a score between 80 and 90% from critics. And even the critic scores that are positive right now are giving 7 out of 10 and still talking about how it's mediocre. It's almost as if they're scared to tell you that they didn't like the movie because they want to be contrary to what the public consciousness is right now when it comes to Marvel. And that is a recipe for why so many people distrust critics these days. The issue here is, guys, Most people don't even use the critics as a measuring stick for how a movie is taken anyways. This movie is still peddling, in my opinion, the lie that it cost $180 million. I've heard from people who have inside sources and other people who have done the legwork and shown it in their videos that a movie that has been constantly rewritten, constantly reshot. They didn't add Giancarlo Esposito till the middle of filming. Seth Rollins' entire storyline was edited out. There was everything with the Serpent Society. There have been too many changes, too many reports of poor test screenings to believe that this movie was shot, finished, and done at $180 million. And that's before all of the marketing. But the reason they're doing that is because the average person who doesn't know anything about the industry will hear that the movie is supposed to have the $190 million opening weekend worldwide and believe that because it made $190 million opening weekend and it cost $180 million to make, that it's somehow already profitable, not understanding the fact that they're going to be splitting that box office either 60-40 or 50-50 with American and Western distributors, and is making as little as 25% when it comes to the China release, because the Communist Party keeps 75% of all box office films that come from outside of China. Now, all of that is well and good. You can talk about that all you want. It doesn't really matter if the movie has a strong opening weekend. It's looking at about $95 million. The problem is Winter Soldier opened to $95 million, and that was back in 2014. As I mentioned in previous videos, $95 million in 2025 goes a whole lot less far than $95 million in the year 2014. So let's get into some of these reviews, because like I said, these, as important as these may be, how the movie does with audiences will be what really sells it. So I'm just going to go through some of these positive ones just so that you can get an idea of how those are gauged. All right. I'll give one of the ones that was more positive to begin with, because it gave it a 3 out of 5, and it's actually up there. It says, ambitious in its action and political spectacle, it is Brave New World's grounded dissection of a character that proves its most admirable quality. But this is where you start to get into the ones that give a positive rating, because they're a 7 out of 10. It's a positive. It's a tomato on Rotten Tomatoes, but they don't actually sound that excited. This is from the movie blog. It says, Captain America Brave New World is a politically safe, average film that barely moves the MCU needle. I mean, that doesn't sound like 7 out of 10 for me. Like 7 out of 10 is almost a joke. It's like IGN, right? Everything gets a 7 out of 10. Bob Chipman says, Marvel goes back to basics with a lean, fast-paced throwbacks to Tom Clancy's Pot Boilers and its own Winter Soldier Phase 2 mode of solo franchise multiverse. What is that sequel? So what he's trying to say is, like, it's before they cared about the multiverse. When it was phrased when we were reading about this earlier, it was very hard to discern, to a largely satisfying result. Here's a bunch of the negative results, but this is the one that I thought was the funniest. This is a positive rating from Looper.com. It's a 7 out of 10. Plays like a rhyming piece with the Russo brothers' work with Winter Soldier, but for anyone hoping for a more than secondhand nostalgia, a 2025 film homaging a 2014 film homaging a broad simulacrum of the 1970s, Brave New World will likely disappoint. The next one here, this is a B-. This is a positive. Again, on Rotten Tomatoes, this is a positive review. Brave New World isn't particularly bad. It just exists. I don't know. Like, you read those, if those are the positive reviews, if the best the positive reviews can muster is like, yeah, it was fine, I don't know how much that spells goodwill for the film, because when it comes down to it, the best way to see whether a movie like this is actually going to succeed or not is how it does with audiences. Because when it comes to the audiences, when it comes to films like this, a movie doesn't succeed on one great opening weekend box office, blowout. Making a bunch of money in the first weekend isn't how you make it to profit in Hollywood anymore. It's all about good word of mouth that keeps audiences either telling their friends and getting them to go and give the movie a shot in its second week, or making a movie that's so good that audiences want to go see it more than one time. If you look at a film like, I think when we were talking about this earlier, Raymond mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It did an okay opening weekend, but it just kept trucking along to make it to like $850 million. Look at a film like Top Gun Maverick. Really good opening weekend, but not any number that would have indicated the $1 billion that it eventually ended up making at the box office. It's all about making a movie that is so satisfying to the audience that they are willing to come back again and again and get their friends to come back, because one good opening weekend isn't going to cut it. I would be interested to know, guys. I keep talking about this movie this week. I'm actually glad to have it to talk about, but let me know down below. Are you planning to go see this? Do you think that Disney is as screwed as I feel they are, given the fact that they are getting protests from both sides of the aisle on various different issues? I'd like to know what you think about it. Down in the comments. More videos coming soon. Talk to you then, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.